Ja, herzlich willkommen, meine Damen und Herren.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to this afternoon session. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania, our partner country. Welcome to the German Tourism Forum. It will run for 3 hours in a number of sessions. My name is Lars Bengsch, and I am Managing Director from DWIF Consulting based in Munich. We've got 3 hours ahead of us in this German Tourism Forum. First of all, we're going to look in the first block at macro-regional strategies, territorial cooperation, cutting across borders, focusing in particular on the Baltic Sea area. And then we'll be looking at the labour market in the tourism industry, the lack of qualified staff, and how to resolve such difficulties. And finally, we're going to be looking at STARS or trust scores, quality management and guest reviews and such like. That is what we'll be addressing over the next 3 hours. And in the sessions, we're going to have excellent moderators. And for the first session, I'd like to welcome our representative from the European Commission, Joanna Mouliou.
So, dear host, dear organizers, the region of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, I said it correctly, dear Johannes Volkmar, thank you very much for organizing this event. It's very important for the European Commission to bring over the macro-regional strategies in the work that we are doing in tourism and culture in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to come here today and to be the moderator. It was the main moderator, my head of unit for the macro-regional strategies, transnational, interregional cooperation, IPA and enlargement countries. This is the part of the cooperation in the European Commission. Mr. Halking didn't make it. Okay, the evil of the IT confused the picture with the person, so I'm here. I'm Joanna Mouliou. And I would like to introduce our distinguished guests. It is the first time that we have this opportunity to bring together key implementers from the 4 macro-regional strategies. We have here Mr. Lange, who represents, he's the coordinator of the Baltic Sea Strategy, the coordinator for tourism. You can, yes. Mr. Sirakov, the Bulgarian coordinator, tourism coordinator of the priority area, the tourism and culture of the Danube region. Ms. Alessandra Priante, a distinguished member of the thematic steering group for sustainable tourism of the Adriatic and Ionian macro-regional strategy. And last but not least, Mr. Bernhard Lehofer, who is contributing from the public administration side in the tourism industry in the Alpine strategy. Actually, I should have gone otherwise. I should have presented Mrs. Priante first. But the reason why I got this order is in order for you to understand that these 4 macro-regional strategies did not happen at the same time. We started with the launch of the Baltic Sea Strategy first in 2009, Danube Strategy in 2010, in 2014, Adriatic-Ionian macro-regional strategy, and last but not least, in 2015, the Alpine strategy. All the 4 strategies have tourism as their main topic. Tourism policy is treated in all the strategies, except for the Adriatic and Ionian macroregional strategy. This is a main pillar and is treated together with blue growth, environment, and connectivity. And that is because tourism represents two digits numbers, percentage in the GDP growth of all the countries which participate in this strategy. Tourism is very important. Actually, after 8 years from the launch of the macroregional strategies, in November 2017, we published a study, the European Commission published a study made by our expert, which introduced the different views of the stakeholders and the main key implementers of the strategies on the progress of the strategies and the their future role in the European cohesion policy. This study is very important for us because it gives us the insights from the countries as well as the views from the stakeholders. It was mentioned that the strategies and the transnational cooperation is essential and crucial. The transnational cooperation has changed the environment of the governance in the European level. Macroregional strategies have launched the multi-level governance at all levels, as well as a cross-sectoral approach, meaning that, for instance, as regards tourism policy, we don't see tourism policy as a silo. We see tourism policy in relation to other policies at European level. And this helps very much because like that we have the big picture of Europe, and this is what we want to achieve. Because we don't have much time, I would like now to launch some questions regarding the benefits of this transnational cooperation, how you receive this benefit, and what do you believe we can do more in the macroregional strategies in the future. And so I will start by Gerd. In the Baltic Sea region, Baltic Sea Tourism Forum tends to be a major process. The Baltic Sea Tourism Forum, as I've been told. So tell me about that if you have some information, and tell me also about the other priorities of this pillar, this policy area, and what do you see as an added value by cooperating with the other countries in these issues?
Okay, let me start with tourism is just one of 13 policy areas, and we are following an action plan from 2015, and our advantages we have is we want to bundle knowledge, we want to bundle skills and ideas, and we want to take these advantages for the cooperation into a unit. It's called Baltic Sea Tourism Center, to have a working unit for all members of the Baltic states and stakeholders, and that's is one of our main points we are working on.
Okay. And the added value of from cooperating with the other countries on tourism policy?
So, the added value is about mostly to know what the others are doing. I said we try to bundle the mostly different aims the countries around the Baltic Sea have. We are still standing on the point to learn what the others are doing, and we are trying to get more cooperation between stakeholders in tourism, in the regional governments, very important, and to take with us even so the national governments. That's even in Germany not the most easiest part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Lyubomir, in the Danube strategy, we have 14 countries. And this is an achievement to bring together 14 countries to discuss about tourism policy, among others. In the Danube, you are developing right now a Danube brand through cultural roots. So tell us about that. Tell us also a bit about your Danubian Forum, the annual event, and its relation to the EU Year for Cultural Heritage, because currently we have this EU initiative, and also perhaps about security and tourism.
Okay. Thank you for the question, and thank you also for the invitation to be part of this panel. I'm happy to be here as Bulgaria is President of the Council of the European Union, and at the same time we are President also the Danube Strategy. And one of the main focus of the Danube Strategy this year and this presidency is culture and tourism. So we are happy to promote it at different events. As Joanna just mentioned, all the 14 countries that participate in the Danube Strategy agreed to create a common Danube brand, which of course is not an easy task, but at least some steps were made towards that. And we are happy that for the first time, countries for the Danube region work together in order to promote the region as one single object. So it has one single face towards the other parts of the Europe and other parts of the world. Until now, we have certified one route of the Council of Europe, which is the route of Roman emperors and wine. We have also developed the Danube, which is the old Roman border. So several projects were developed in different parts of Europe, trying to put on the map the old Roman border. And the focus will be also part of the annual forum, which will be organized in Sofia in October, on 18th and 19th October, where the main topic will be culture, and also tourism, and the importance of tourism sector for economic growth.
Thank you very much. Alessandra, we work together for the Adriatic and Ionian Macroregional Strategy. You are a very active member, and this year, in addition, you represent the Italian presidency of this strategy.
Yes.
In the thematic steering group of tourism, sustainable tourism. Tourism for the Adriatic Ionian Strategy is a very big topic.
Indeed.
We have 8 countries, 4 member states and 4 non-EU member states that work together under the coordination of Croatia and Albania. Tell me, how do you see this collaboration between among all these countries, and what important point this represents for our macro-region to be organized coordinator in matters of tourism?
Well, Joanna, first of all, thank you very much for the question. Thanks, ITB, for having us. We were just discussing before starting. I mean, this is a great achievement that we have this opportunity to actually explain what the macro-regional strategies are. And I think that you need to understand that when it comes to transnational strategies, and this happened to me in the beginning as well, when I was asked to represent Italy in the macro-region, for what concerns sustainable tourism, the question is always, okay, what is the strategy doing? I mean, strategy then intends certain lines of operation, and where are we going, and what's the achievement? And then by joining and having direct experience, I realized how important it is to have this type of platform. First of all, I mean, of course, my experience is only with EUSDR, and as Joanna was saying, we're 8 countries, and the commonality that we have is that we all basically look at the eastern side of the Mediterranean. Us as Italy, one would imagine that we would be the natural coordinators of the pillar on tourism. We're not. We're actually the coordinators of the connectivity one, which is also incredibly important. And what's really relevant about the strategies is that not only it's a cooperation space for all the countries, it's also incredibly intersected when it comes to the different pillars. So the strategy took several phases, and it is challenging for all of us to come together. But what we're developing best practices. And what we're getting out of it is incredibly important. Let me explain to you why briefly as Italy. We are, at the moment, even though we just run elections on Sunday, so we don't really know what's going to happen in the future, we're at the moment still with a constitution that says that each region has an independence in drafting the tourism policy, which means that each region has a possibility of managing funds. So what EUSDR provides is the possibility of actually enlarging the cooperation between not only Italy, but all of the regions that are part of the macro-regional strategy, because it's not the whole of Italy, it's just the regions that are on the eastern side of the Mediterranean, with the counterparts. And so we're also learning. We're identifying priorities. We are understanding where we all want to go. We discuss, and like few days before coming here, we once again came together and we tried to focus on understanding where we want to go, what are the topics we want to focus on. And so we did identify some priorities, and this is actually very important for us because you have to understand what we do at a macro-regional level reflects what we want to do strategically on a national level. Nevertheless, because it's a general consensus, we always find a mediation and we always learn from one another. So we propose projects and we vote for the projects, and we might go one project initiated by Greece, one project initiated by Italy, one by Croatia, but we all learn. So this is very, very important for us. And I would like to mention, if you allow me, Joanna, one other very important milestone that you recalled as well at the end of 2017. I mean, under the initiative of DG Regio, there was a very important benchmarking study where a few analysts had the possibility of putting together also national strategic plans of our countries, of the 8 countries, creating a platform of at the moment, 8 areas that we should tackle on the way forward, moving forward. Because as I said before, strategies are important, but then operational phase is what really makes a strategy, something relevant. So, I guess the red thing didn't blink yet, so I'm going to shut up.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I now give the floor to Bernhard. Bernhard, you represent the tourism, health tourism, emerging market. In the Alpine strategy, Alpine strategy has a specific approach to tourism. It's not like in the other strategies, a broad approach, but here tourism is more green, is more emerging, health, agrotourism. Please, we are very much interested to see how you tackle health tourism in the Alpine.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us. As you said before, we are the youngest of the 4 macro-regional strategy, the European strategy for the Alpine region, and myself, I took over to lead one of the action groups. Actually, it's a subgroup of an action group dedicated to tourism just a couple of months ago. So we are right at the beginning right now. I mean, if you look at the Alpine space, it's actually one of the richest areas in the whole world. But still, if you look at tourism, there is of course a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties. On the one hand, you have touristic hotspots, all of you know them, in the Alps, mainly renowned for skiing and stuff, causing a lot of problems, of course, overcrowding, traffic problems and stuff like that. On the other hand, you have a lot of remote areas where you have a high degree of depopulation, young people moving away from there. a decay in infrastructure, also in tourist infrastructure, valleys that get depopulated. So these are the challenges we are facing. We choose to work on the topic of health tourism because we think that this is one of the USPs of the Alps. If you look at the geography, the Alps are bordered by the south by the Upper Italian megacities, I would say so, in the north by the German megacities, and in between you have a green lung. You have a green lung that displays a three-dimensional landscape and an area that has a lot of cultural heritage, a lot of health heritage. So what we're doing right now, we're working to map all the traditional health resources that are provided by the Alps. This could be waters, minerals, the high degree of biodiversity. This could be the low fine dust concentration, stuff like that. And out of these unique features we're having there, we are trying to develop products and services for promoting health, for giving an answer to illnesses that are developing, backed by the lifestyle we're living right now. And this is what we're doing right now. So we've just started, and we're just setting up the working group. So we have members from Italy already, from Austria, from Germany, Switzerland, from France, but right at the beginning. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So now let me ask you very quickly if you know the dates of your annual fora, because this might be very interesting for the audience to know when you plan to make this international fora for your strategies, if you have the dates yet. For the Baltic?
The Baltic, we have it in November, 14th and 15th, with the most facts about sustainability, financing tourism, very important, lasting financing for the next years and the next period, and cultural heritage will be a very big theme.
Okay, thank you very much. Danube, you said this before, but...
The Danube region, it will be on 18th and 19th October in Sofia, and the topic will be culture, tourism and economic growth. And during the second day, there will be also discussions on possibilities for funding under the Danube Transnational program.
I'm sorry, it will take place in Riga. I forgot it to
Where?
say. In Riga.
In Riga.
Riga.
Sorry.
Very good.
Nice.
Thank you.
Beautiful place. And for our forum, it will take place because Joanna was mentioning we are holding the presidency until the end of June. So it will be in Catania, 24th, 25th of May. And of course, the focus will be, because it's a USDR forum, will be broad. It will cover the whole pillars. But I need to mention that this year we're matching, and we did this from the beginning of the year, the focus on the EU-China tourism year activities. So we've already started in Venice doing on the 20th of January a very interesting panel on the Western Maritime Silk Road. And we plan to continue the dialogue in opening up to China, because let me add one thing, Joanna, what is very important about transnational routes is that, and strategies, is that not just learning among one another, but also opening up and seeing how we can brand, if this helps the branding of Europe towards other countries, in this case, China.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Bernhard?
Actually, the state of Tyrol now has the presidency of the macro strategy for the Alpine region. The annual forum, I think it's sometimes in November. I think it's the 20th or something. However, tourism will not play a very big role there. It's more about mobility, connectivity. So this will be the topic of the European strategy there. But what's more interesting in terms of tourism, we will organize a symposium on tourism in Austria, in Bad Gastein on the 6th and 7th of December. And this will be a symposium which will solely be dedicated to tourism and health tourism. Yeah.
Combined with ski.
Sorry?
Combined with ski.
Combined with skiing and visiting all these attractive natural remedies they have there, from spas to curative possibilities within the mountains and stuff like that. Yeah.
Good to know.
Good to know, yeah.
Very good to know. So now, briefly, I would like to raise the point on the financing. It is very important because it's good to sit together and to draw policies and transnational actions, but we need to finance these actions. And that was a bit of an issue this year regarding this programming period, 2014-2020. Some people criticized the Commission that tourism was not there in the 11 thematic objectives of the European Structural and Investment Funds, although our opinion was slightly different, that tourism is an economic activity, it should not be a thematic objective. So tourism can be financed by all the thematic objectives normally. But please tell me your experience and what you think we should address better for the upcoming programming period, post-2020. Let's start with the lady this time.
Well, I was hoping not, but I have to be honest with you, Joanna. I think that the Commission has done a tremendous effort in trying to keep the focus for the financing strategy, for the support of all these programs, because we personally back up this vision of seeing tourism as an economic activity that has to be absolutely crossing throughout the various items. Because when you focus on thematic, you tend to reduce the impact. I actually have to say that due to also the presence of President Tajani, the focus on tourism has increased a lot at a European level. For the first time this year, correct me if I'm wrong, there was the European Tourism Day. And there is an initiative to take tourism forward to the next level. So now the important thing about tourism is that, yes, tourism is, first of all, an economic sector. Then it's an incredibly horizontal sector that pulls together many and involves many other sectors, and our strategies are a manifest of this because it talks to transport, communication, environment, culture, anything else, and of course drives the main economic variables of our nations, which is GDP and employment rate. So at this level, the commitment that we should put in the first place as countries, but also ask the European Commission to sort of, mirror is the broader input, the broadest input that it possibly can achieve. So I think to come to a conclusion, I think that the question on financing, Joanna, is not really much on how and which program and where do we fish for money for the specific area. It's more about how do we embed tourism within all the initiatives that the European Commission is taking place. Therefore, we don't just talk about regional cooperation, we talk about cooperation in all the fields, because we need to create a brand Europe for tourism, which is not there yet, which is a different level from our national, is not in competition. But this is something, it's a learning curve that, for example, we're experiencing with the Chinese, and you know this very well. I mean, the foreign travelers, visitors, tourists, call them however you want, what they look for is a European destination. And they tend to land on the first city, and then they move around. So we have to also encompass this and not just compete among one another in order to be the first one to receive. We also need to learn how to make tourism a very useful cooperation tool for us as well. at an economic, social, and cultural level. The moment that we'll reach a stronger brand Europe, there will be nobody. I mean, we just say there's an expression that we use in Roma, but of course I cannot translate it neither in English nor in German, and it's called take a note of my license plate for how fast I'm running. All right, so I think this is probably a good objective to reach.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bernhard, what do you think? You are a new strategy. I don't know if you have already the time to reflect on the EU funding sources, but you have a big history with the Alpine Convention on cooperation, so you could perhaps...
Yes, I want to join in what you said. I think if you look at the figures, I mean, it's about 10% of the GDP, which is dedicated to tourism itself. And if you look at all the other branches that are affected directly or indirectly by tourism, it's a very important topic. I also agree what you said. It's not about funding is not a question of specific programs or whatever, but what our experience is usually if you go for a project in different programs and you have a topic that is dealing with tourism and not with rocket science, you are kind of okay. What is this? Does this need funding or not? Yeah. But what we see, especially if you want to go into quality and if you want to invest not in numbers of overnight stays, but in value you are generating and in quality, you need to implement a more scientific approach. You need the academia to help, and this of course needs funding. Yeah. So money is definitely an issue. Yeah.
Okay. Gerd?
I think the main aim we have is to set sustainable and lasting structures. I talked about the Baltic Sea Tourism Center. That's a structure we are building up now for 3 years, but the funding in the next years is open. Mm-hmm. So that's one of our targets, to get structures who are sustainable financed and can do what they have to do. They have to help, they have to bundle, they are organizations which the participants around the Baltic Sea can use, and that's a very hard work. We are not going to build a new brand for the Baltic Sea. We are too different. But what we need, or when we have such usable structures, all can
profit.
Yeah, have a profit. So that's our aim for the next time. And the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum is a conference who takes place 1 time a year, is another part of these sustainable, lasting structures, a meeting point for the most important themes we focus on. So these 2 points are for us the most important, I think, in the actual time now.
Thank you very much. Lyubomir, and also because you are an expert, I've been told, in the EU funding issues, please tell us what do you think, and also the role of SMEs?
Yeah. Well, I agree with Alessandra that tourism is a horizontal sector, so basically you have to invest in different other sectors in order to achieve growth in tourism. You have to invest in infrastructure. You have to invest in people's skills, to upgrade their skills, and also to attract some people who are unemployed in order to be included in the employment of tourism sector. You also need to support SMEs and to create some incentives in order to go to other markets, to new markets. to promote themselves. And probably the support for SMEs and the creation of incentives for them is very important, because actually the SMEs are the backbone of the tourism sector. These are the hotels, these are the small restaurants. This is the business that drives the whole sector. And what is a serious problem, especially in the countries from the Central and Eastern Europe, that is the lack of skills, the lack of skilled labor, due to low payment in the tourism sector, and due to immigration of many people to other countries. So that's a serious problem that should be tackled in order to help the tourism sector to grow more and more.
Thank you very much. We have some time for questions from the audience, I think. So if you have some questions, please spell them now.
Don't be shy.
So everything was very clear, I think. Okay. So we can conclude. Transnational cooperation is very important. Interregional cooperation is very important. Just to give you a number, in a research survey made for smart specialization, 83% of the participants, they mentioned that interregional cooperation is a must. And we should really see how we will cooperate more in the future, because Europe as a silo, each nation is a country, each region as a silo cannot really make it. The international competition is very high, world markets are increasing very highly, and in particular in tourism sector, more and more tourism are expected to come in Europe, something like 140 million more tourists per year until 2025. Therefore, transnational cooperation is very important. Macroregional strategies are a tool. For the time being, the 4 macroregional strategies, they represent 19 countries, 19 European countries out of the 28, and 8 non-EU member states. We will see now in the Commission how we will abort this issue for the future. Perhaps we will include also the sea basin strategies that they cover the other missing countries in order to draw policies. This is one thing, transnational cooperation and interregional cooperation. Very important is to look through the sectors. Tourism policy should not be a silo either. It should be seen in relation to connectivity, in relation to health and medical sector, in relation to blue growth, agriculture, environment. So a cross-sectoral approach is demanded. Third point, very important, multi-level governance. What do we mean with multi-level governance? All the actors from all the levels of the society should sit together. Politicians, public employees, private sector, stakeholders, opinions and views should be taken on board in order to perform realistic policies in the future. Skills and education, very important, in particular for the tourism industry. Developing skills, having people who are trained precisely for promoting quality and good services to the world market. Other points that was mentioned, of course, the EU funding is very important. We should have the opportunity to fund projects, but the experience shows that the most difficult thing is to start speaking to each other. So to have transnational good projects on the table. Once the good projects are there, financing could be something that the Commission would facilitate. Although in the strategies we have the principle of 3 no's, no new financing, no new institutions, no new administrations. However, financing can be found, and if good projects are on the table, we are very happy to discuss them with you and to promote this transnational blooming of tourism in the upcoming programming period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you, the panelists.
Thank you.